For the anything and everything
and shit
podcast, Justin and Eric.
What's up, everybody?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back, and thank you for joining in once again.
Yeah, another day in the hood.
Yeah, episode 13.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lucky number 13.
I think it's a lucky number. A lot of people don't.
I don't mind it at all.
Yep,
Man.
I like it.
You know?
Hell yeah.
It's one of them things.
Right?
To each his own, I guess.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, we got some good topics for you today. What's your topic, Eric?
So we dove into a little bit. We'll play a video for you about the Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington conspiracy theory. Also involves Anthony Bourdain and Michi DJ.
Avicii.
Huh?
Avicii.
My bad. I'm sorry for mispronouncing
I thought it
his
was
name.
Michi too.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And you dug up some pretty good ones as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we always kind of talked about this NFL kind of conspiracy stuff, and I dug up a game called BottleGate where they screwed somebody over pretty bad.
Dude,
and we'll talk about that. It's like the whole time we were watching the video, both of us were just like, wait, you can't do that. But they did it.
Yeah, they bent them. They
yeah.
bent them over hardcore. So
yeah, we got another video about how taxation is theft, and it used to be exactly that before 1913, and we'll tell you how they changed it on us to make it something that you can go to prison for now.
Right. Ask Wesley Snipes.
Right.
That's
Blade were some good movies, man. It's too bad it cost them so much. But anyway.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, and we also have a video about, because we're all about this reality shift stuff, where a guy from 1983 did a video where he said they started this in 1943, and it actually shifted our reality. I'm not going to get into it too far, but we'll let this guy tell you all about it, so hang around.
On the sideline, he's got that nervous twitch.
When the Browns almost went up on the line of scrimmage knowing the clock was running, hey, it's fourth down, you've got time, huddle up. Don't worry about the touchdown right now. Worry about getting those 2 yards for the first down. How about Jamel White? We haven't seen him catch the ball in this drive.
White lines up as the single setback. Couch, pumping, looks backside, underneath. And it's Morgan with the catch at the 10. And he did a tremendous job to hang on to the football. Gets the first down, clock still running.
Now just spike the ball. Don't even waste the play. Or maybe they're even calling a play.
And he spikes it. And the clock stops with 48 seconds remaining.
And I'm just wondering if that was going to be one of those fake spikes.
I thought he was going to do that.
It looked like
a la Peyton Manning earlier this year against New Orleans.
And you know what? What the Jags are saying, when his arm came forward, you actually have one chance to spike it. They're saying that that's a fumble. Or, you know what? They're not a fumble. I'm sorry, Gus. They're saying that it's intentional grounding because he wasn't out of the pocket. So you have that initial chance to go ahead and spike it, but he faked it. And at that point, when he throws it into the ground, it becomes intentional grounding because you're not outside the pocket. Look at it. See the fake right there? He did it the second time. So he wasn't throwing it to anybody. So what they're discussing is, should that be intentional grounding?
Should it?
Yes. I believe the way the rule's written, that's exactly what it is.
So this is what we've been told. That the replay officials on the previous play, the fourth down play, they tried to buzz the referees on the field, and they wanted the ref to take a look at where the ball was on the Quincy Morgan reception to review it.
Replay buzzed prior to the snap. We'll be looking to see if the last pass was incomplete or complete.
That's the fourth down reception by Quincy Morgan.
So they actually overruled that last play, and they're trying to see if this is a catch or not. And you see it sliding out from Quincy Morgan, and that ball didn't necessarily stay in the grasp of Quincy Morgan. It looked like he was trying to pull it up. And so forget the potential grounding call, which I thought the Jags were going after originally. They were saying Quincy Morgan was juggling that ball. And I actually think he was. You have to have, Gus, you have to have possession and 2 feet down. And if that ball's gonna hit the ground, you're gonna have to maintain possession. That ball can't be sliding around. And Gus.
But what Butch Davis is gonna argue is that it's too late. It's too late because another play had already been run. And how can you go back 2 plays?
And I guess there was a malfunction in the system. That's what they said. They were buzzing down trying to get the replay. I didn't see the red flag come out from the Jags sideline.
Butch Davis is going to argue this until he's blue in the face.
And Gus, you know, you can't challenge in the last 2 minutes, but you can clearly get the ref's attention by jumping up and down and throwing that flag. I want to go back and see if Quincy Morgan had that ball and had 2 feet down. It was very close because the 2 feet only count once you have possession. And you can see the ball sliding down his leg right there. Now he got 2 feet down, but did he have possession of the ball when he got the 2 feet down? Is that, see, you can, there's holding onto his leg, and it looked like he still had it there, and then it was coming out. Wow. And so
this is a mess.
I think the way that the rule states is that it goes back to what was called on the field. They called it a completion. So it's got to be irrefutable evidence to overturn it. And they ran another play, which I've never seen happen in this.
After review, the pass is incomplete. First down, Jacksonville.
Wow. So they say he was juggling the ball. And what Butch Davis is saying right now is we ran another play. And like I said, in the history of replay, Gus, once another play has been run, I have never seen them go back and say we're replaying another play. And I mean, this is serious stuff here in Cleveland. This is a playoff spot potentially on the line.
And it's getting ugly here in Cleveland.
And it's getting ugly here fast.
So Jacksonville will take the football back at the 10-yard line. Because of this, they say this is an incomplete pass.
Boy, I don't know. He had those 2 feet down. Then you see the ball coming out.
But what the fans are upset with is the Browns were able to get to the line of scrimmage and run another play. But then the officials went back 2 plays and made the ruling. They said that there was a malfunction with the communication system between the replay officials in the booth and the officials on the field. And the rules are pretty specific. Once another play is run, it can't be reviewed.
And so they were talking about the malfunction in the system. That's what the replay booth has called and told us. But we don't make the rules.
And bottles have been thrown on the field.
And that's one thing that we haven't had since replay has come back. We haven't had that situation, Gus, where another play has been run and we've gone back.
Fortunately, those bottles are plastic. But these Cleveland fans are irate. And they're trying to clear the end zone.
Yeah, well, the Cleveland fans aren't helping any right now by throwing stuff on the field. They got to know better than that. And it's frustrating. The players are frustrating as well. And the players are sitting on the sideline looking around dazed, trying to figure out how this happened. And we've just
Butch Davis still arguing his case.
And we've just never seen that. Once the play is run, it's all over. And you see teams before try to get up to the line of scrimmage and run another play so they can get beyond the review if they feel it's going to go against them.
So,
well, what the officials need to do is they need to get on the PA and get control of this game and get control of the fans. They're letting it get out of control because they're not communicating what's going on. Take some control down there and get this situation going. Let us know why and what happened. Talk about the other play being run off, because that is an unusual situation. You've got to let everybody know why this is happening, because just like up here in the booth, nobody has any idea what's going on because they're not telling us.
The Browns came into this game with 6 wins, hoping to keep their playoff hopes alive, needing a win today over Jacksonville.
Well, the one thing you got to do if you're the officials right now, if the ball is indeed Jacksonville, then just call the game and get these guys off the field. It's not worth somebody getting hurt. If the fans are going to throw crap on the field, take control and get the players off the field, because this is ridiculous. Just get rid of the.
So let's take a look back. Tim Couch, here he is. Watch the referee in the left part of the frame. And that referee is not blowing anything dead until after the ball was spiked. And now they're going to call the game.
That is the end of the game.
Unbelievable. Now they call the game.
Well, that was
with
the right
48
call.
seconds to go.
Yeah, you got to take.
I think this has been just a fiasco by the referees today.
Well, that was the right call. You got to end the game. If the fans are throwing crap on the field.
Especially when you consider how big of a game this was for the Cleveland Browns. This is ridiculous.
Well, I'll be anxious to hear the official explanation of the way that replay situation came down, because once another play is run, you can't go back.
And these officials really need to get off the field.
And you know what? The fans got to stop throwing crap. We just saw a guy get hit in the head and he's down, split his head wide open. The fans have got to control themselves. People are getting hurt. It's ridiculous. You're only hurting yourselves by throwing stuff on the field.
And the officials are pummeled as they head into the locker room, and Butch Davis is speechless. He doesn't know what to say or what to do.
There's the referees. They let their next play run. Nobody's blowing a whistle. Nobody's doing anything. Now this official's going to wave off the play. Incomplete after
the ball had been spiked.
Well, miscommunication and a problem with the replay system
may have cost the Cleveland Browns a chance to go to the playoffs.
You've got to communicate and let everybody know what's going on.
So the game stopped with 48 seconds left on a call that I'm sure will be talked about in Cleveland for probably the next 6 months. 15-10 the final score. And there's the scene.
And the fans are just littering the field. And a fella right in front of us, Gus, got hit in the head with looked like a radio and just split his head wide open, and he's down. And the fans have to be smarter than that during those 30 to 40
seconds. So the referees
seconds.
are claiming, this is what the referees are claiming from replay, is that they were saying they were blowing the ball dead as the ball was being snapped. And from what we've seen on our replays, that's inaccurate. So what an ending. Jacksonville wins 15-10. A controversial ending here in Cleveland.
So what'd you think of that?
You know,
I told you, man, it was nuts.
and you know, and I know we've had many conversations about this whole NFL thing, but that one, and I would imagine we probably saw it back in the day. And we were probably even back then. But
I probably watched that game.
You know, but man, did they just screw them? I've never seen.
I know that they swept that one under the rug.
Right, yeah.
Because for sure, man, I've never in my life agreed with anything that has to do with anything with Cleveland Browns.
But they
got my whole life, I've never liked them or even given them a chance. Like nothing.
No Bernie Kosar? No nothing?
Dude, don't even get me started. But this was one time where I was like,
wow.
And the playoffs were at stake.
Yeah, that's
like,
what's even worse about it is like, you know, I mean, the Browns don't get no love, and then you just totally just bend them over and just rob them, man. That's
for real, man. That was just, I can't believe it. Like, and how first of all, when it's an actual strategy now in the NFL in 2026, has been for as long as I could tell you, where if you throw a pass, since instant replay's been around, you throw a play, somebody does something that's a little bit kind of fine line-ish, hurry up and get up, spike the ball.
Spike the ball.
Like that, period. And that's exactly what they did, though he
penaltied it,
muffed the fake spike. I guess maybe he didn't know that. I mean, I knew it. If you fake the spike and you do it the second time, that's an incomplete pass.
Yeah.
And especially if you're throwing it 2 feet in front of your own feet, that's going to be intentional grounding. So I knew that, and I get that, but it still should have been.
It was a play.
First down. So that should have been second down because they had already run the play.
Yeah,
and
it was a penalty and a loss of downs, and yet they were like, "Oh no, we were trying to buzz you and stop the game." And
dude,
man,
well, that's the thing. It's like who sucks it up and says, "Okay, I made the mistake. We have to just let this one go."
Yeah,
because at that point, you have to just let that one go. You can't. Because, I mean, I didn't see that he didn't catch the ball in live action.
Right.
I saw it on the replay, but I couldn't see it in live action. So I was well, you can't just like say, well, wait a minute, we made a mistake and you guys have to pay for it. So that's kind of like, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because we do talk about the NFL being kind of an entertainment thing more than it is an actual sporting league. You know, so that's why we wanted to bring it up. But on top of the fact, it's like they were for the people that are listening to this and not watching the video, they obviously heard they were chucking bottles and stuff. But it was like, dude, the end zone was completely full of bottles.
It was nuts.
And being a Broncos fan since I was a little kid, you know, I watched the drive. I watched those games in Cleveland when they hated Elway and the dog pound was throwing batteries and snowballs inside, and batteries inside of the snowballs and dog biscuits.
Dog biscuits is funny.
Milk bones or whatever they are. They were like the big ones.
I mean, that's
the
funny.
Ones you
but
feed Goliath.
But the batteries and the snowballs, that's a little excessive.
Well,
but I mean, it happens.
Fans are crazy anywhere.
Fans are.
I'm not just going to say it's only in Cleveland, but it's anyway. Just from watching all that and then seeing what they had to go through this time, it's like, well, this time I can actually feel for the Cleveland fans. For 1 second after that, it's over, man. I'm sorry. I don't have any love for Cleveland fans.
I mean, I felt bad for them.
Not the fans. The fans I don't have a problem with. It's the team. I hate your team. Like, that's it. I don't have a problem with the people. The people are great. You just like the Browns. That's not, everybody's got a sickness of some kind. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
There's my sickness. And we get robbed all the time, but that was a great one.
And that's what you said too. Like some teams get robbed more than others. And I showed my buddy Chris that video the other day, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, the Cardinals." And I was like, "Bro,
there's a few."
Eric said that.
It's the truth.
Broncos, I think, get screwed over a lot, but I think everybody thinks their team gets screwed over a lot.
There's some teams that just get screwed over a little bit more than others, and it just happens, and it's just because they're just not. They're good teams, and but they're
Right.
just not as loved as other teams. They're just some teams. I mean, it's like Dallas, and the Broncos have a pretty decent following even outside of Colorado. And obviously now the Chiefs are sitting on the top and blah blah. But it's just all the exposure and that
Not
as
for
well.
long.
But yeah,
Their little contract ran out with the refs.
yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Something.
It's a sudden drop, isn't it?
Right.
It was a sudden rise and a sudden drop.
I don't know what it's just funny. It's interesting to me how on what I've seen through the NFL, and it's just like, huh,
Well, speaking of disappearing, on a darker note,
very dark.
Eric's topic is about Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington and Anthony Bourdain and Avicii.
Yeah.
Were working on a project, and they were actually making a movie out of it called The Silent Children.
They didn't just die. They were erased.
Says the Swedish DJ and producer died in Muscat, Oman.
Because 4 global icons, all connected to the same rumored project, don't vanish by accident.
More breaking news right now. Linkin Park singer Chester Bennington reportedly has committed suicide. Authorities say he hanged himself.
Not Avicii, not Chester Bennington, not Chris Cornell,
Rocker Chris Cornell has died.
not Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain has died at the age of 61.
Every one of them carried the same rumor. A documentary called The Silent Children. A project tied to trafficking, elites, and names that were never supposed to surface. And then, one by one, they were gone. Chris Cornell found in a Detroit hotel. Chester Bennington 2 months later. Anthony Bourdain in France. Avicii in Oman. Official story? Suicide. Unofficial reality? People started connecting dots they were told not to connect. How does a documentary disappear the same moment its rumored creators do? How do 4 voices go silent right before they were allegedly about to speak? Coincidence? Or a message? Because if what they were working on was real, it was too dangerous to finish. So the real question isn't what happened. The real question is, who needed them gone before the world found out?
I thought it was always crazy, bro, when 2 of the most prolific singers of the time just decided to kill themselves.
And it's all because they all have and they're
And then
trying to
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and they're all 4 of them. They were all suffering through mad depression and blah blah, and they all but I just don't see it, man.
And then they'll say that, and then I saw pictures right afterwards where people are like, make sure you check on your friends, because they got pictures of them smiling and completely happy. They're hanging out with their family with the biggest smiles on their face, and then they killed themselves.
Yeah,
and it's like, bro, are you sure?
Right. Did they find something that people don't want other people to know? Now, I've heard that there's different stories, and I've heard one of where Anthony Bourdain was up in a hotel on a level that he wasn't supposed to be on. There was an elitist that was there, and this elitist had the young boy that they had drugged so that he could rape him. The kid and the guy still ended up, he was having sex with him, raping him, and they didn't realize that he was dead, and they tried to cover this up, and Anthony Bourdain had come out of his room and seen like the chaos that was going on there. So, and I think this was at the time that they were working on this film as well, and the information was passed on to Chester and all that. Now, this is all just kind of speculation. I've read this story, though. I really know that I read this freaking story.
I mean, it's hearsay and speculation, but at the same time, it's
I know what the frick I read, and it's just weird.
With everything that's going on nowadays, it's not too hard to believe.
Right.
That's really hard to hear, and just the fact that, like I said, 2 very prolific people off themselves in the same way. And it's amazing how many people fall out of buildings.
Right.
It's amazing how many people overdose on drugs and have heart attacks.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that the government was actually complicit in with their little mind control, giving the other agents LSD to see who was going to be on the board with them. And one of them took it, drove out the window. And they took it. They were like, yeah, we actually did that. Sorry. So they gave his wife a medal. And they gave him a boulevard in Washington somewhere. Like, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
That's crazy.
So it's too obvious that something was very foul with the whole thing. And, these guys aren't the only ones that have started to speak up.
Right.
But they were silenced.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's a deeper thing, especially with all, the Epstein files coming out and all these people dying. And it's just like, dude, you're standing right next to a person. You're laughing and giggling with these people. You can't say that you don't know them. You can't say that you didn't know what was going on or whatever. And I truly believe that these guys kind of uncovered something. Chester's Bennington, he was going through his demons as well. They all were, but we all have our demons. But I don't think that it's just too coincidental that all of them hung themselves. And just, yeah.
For real.
It's fishy and funny and just, yeah.
Well,
and you're working on something like that's going to expose people, and
yeah, and that's the messed up thing in this world that there is such we touched on it on the last episode, the satanic cabal,
right?
That they're so deep, they're just like a cartel. They're everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's like if you try to speak up against them, you'll probably be just so everybody's aware. I'm very happy. Not depressed. There's nothing wrong with any of my stuff. My car runs just fine. So,
yeah.
Just so, Anyway, next up, we got a video about the Gestapo in Britain. I mean, I guess they're not the Gestapo yet.
How do they put up with this? Welcome to Britain. This is amazing. He gets arrested after, he got arrested.
A fucking cop you are. Oi! Oi!
Wait.
What's that about? Wait, what notes are you taking down?
I'm just writing stuff down.
Well, like the fact that we're not doing anything?
Well, you're not
aggravating anyone.
Well, you are.
No, but like verbally.
I'm not doing anything. What do you mean?
I didn't mean to waste all your time. We didn't think it would be this bad. The Arsenal one was way better, honestly.
I didn't do nothing.
I was at the last Arsenal-Chelsea one.
Yid Army. You're a Chelsea fan.
Wait, no, Yid Army's their team.
Can you nick him in? He's used the word Yid Army, which is illegal, so let's nick him for public order. Let's get him out.
What? I thought that was a...
Just so we are absolutely clear, Yid Army is a self-adopted nickname and chant used by Tottenham Hotspur supporters, including both Jewish and non-Jewish fans.
What?
Come over here.
What? I thought that was a...
No.
What?
Mate, that's an offence. Come on, mate. All right, mate. You're currently under arrest.
Wait, no, is this real? There's no way this is real, right? What do these say that's illegal? Yid Army is a Spurs chant because they historically had a lot of Jewish fans. Spurs fans call themselves the Yid Army to take ownership of the term.
Wait, in public order, you heard what the sergeant said.
Why are you taking my phone? Can I get to my friend?
Turn around, mate. I need a handcuff.
Look at how many police officers there are. This is insane.
Arrested so we can conduct an investigation and to prevent any physical harm.
If you just asked me to leave, I would have left.
All right.
I didn't know you were waiting to arrest me. That's the Tottenham chant, and I sung it to a Tottenham fan. I wasn't trying to aggravate anyone.
Going to have to conduct a search.
They're going to have to search him because he said a word?
Got anything on you that could potentially harm me?
No, absolutely nothing.
All right.
We're going to have to do a cavity search on you.
Are you losing
this? People are calling this the most British video ever.
If you asked me to leave, I would have left. I would have given you guys an easier job.
Oh, mate.
I didn't even know that was a racist chant. I've never even heard that before. Last time I came to a Tottenham match, they were singing it, so I sung it as well.
The word yid if you're trying to antagonise.
No, but they're part of Tottenham.
All right.
I didn't try and antagonise anyone.
So clearly,
I tried to say I was on their side.
So clearly, that's antagonistic.
To who?
All right. Clearly, That's a public order offence.
Bro, like, it's the Karen country.
So what? You can't arrest them?
It's all about context, sir.
But I said it to a
It's all about context. So they're all saying the same. Wait a minute. So they're all saying the same thing to him. Walking by, the police are ignoring him, but he's getting arrested for saying.
What? That's not fair. Come on now. They've just five people just chanted it past you. What?
Oh my God!
And I've just got arrested
and
for the same
look at
thing.
all the police officers too.
How is that fair?
Depends if you're trying to antagonize.
I wasn't trying. I'm explaining to you right now that I wasn't trying to antagonize anyone.
What the hell is going on over there?
Well, like the fact that we're not doing anything.
Well, you're not
aggravating anyone.
Well, you are.
No, but like verbally we're not. No, Yid Army.
You're a Chelsea fan.
Wait, no, Yid Army's their team.
Can you nick him in? All right, mate. You're currently under arrest. Keep your handcuffs on.
I didn't.
Wow. Yeah, free speech by the way. He's genuinely confused. He can be arrested and charged with a hate crime and now have his life ruined because of context decided on the spot by these clowns. The absolute state of the country arresting people for words. This would never make it to court. Well, yeah, because they just have to execute him, right? I mean, you can't have somebody saying this. I mean, you've got to shoot him.
Flip, dude. I mean,
he's not wrong. I guess if you can't talk and you can't do anything else, you just start after, people.
I guess I'm just like, dude was like totally surprised. Like, what did I do? What did I say? And man,
they just said the same thing,
right? Yeah,
they kept walking, but it's the context.
It is. It's
well, what do you mean? It's the context, man. How do you know what my context is?
Right. You don't know what I'm feeling inside my head or in my heart, or
how do you know I didn't pass my English class in ninth grade and didn't know how you're supposed to speak?
Dude, that was just like
douche. I mean, the whole thing, like they're all, oh, what do you write down? Oh, nothing. Oh, you're antagonizing. Yeah, we're buddies. It's all cool. It's like, hey,
yeah,
you don't say that.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was quick as snot. But and that's one thing though. They really don't play with around the soccer stadiums and all that stuff because there's just been too many.
That
riots,
isn't just around the soccer stadium, man. That's the whole British colony, dude. That's the law in the whole country. They're putting people in prison for Facebook posts.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know about. I mean, I would just thought it was the whole soccer thing and all that. I was like, oh, okay.
Man, did you set your alarm this morning? Because you need to wake up, bro. That's what's been going on over there for a while, dude.
Yeah.
All the stuff that they've been talking about conspiracy happening over here has been going on over there. Like the Muslim
I know the
replacement.
Whole Muslim, I know the whole Muslim thing.
If you say anything about it, you're going to go to prison. If you post anything online, they're coming to your house, dude. If you've ever seen the movie 1984, it's literally the thought police. If you say something wrong online, they're coming to your house. They're going to arrest you. They'll come to your job. They'll come to your school. They don't give a shit, dude. They are going to lock you up.
I was actually watching that recently on Tubi, because you keep recommending, you'd be like, dude, you got to watch it.
Seriously.
So I didn't full-heartedly pay attention to it because I was kind of on my phone.
There's proof.
But that movie is pretty tripped out, and it is. I'm like, wow. And then the dude and the chick, and I'm like, man, that's
she's a setup. She's an asset.
Dude, it was.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. They're everywhere. They're in everything. You can't get away from it.
It was crazy.
And that's why I say, like,
they broke that fool, man. They broke that fool. I don't know if y'all
2 + 2 doesn't add up to 4 anymore, man.
Yeah, dude.
When you watch that movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
But I didn't and I know that it's pretty nutty over there, but I mean I didn't really.
Bro, this is a small example. Like, I'm surprised we even got to see this, to be honest with you, because they're so like on
top of everything,
dude.
Well, I know the whole Muslim thing over there is getting really crazy. I saw it was that guy that exposed the Somalians, and he was talking to some lady and she's like, this is why I'm over here. She's like, I don't want to see what is happening in the UK happening over here in the United States. So that's why she was out here protesting against the whole Somalian and Muslim movement that is going on. She's like, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
So,
well, we actually have a little segment about that. This lady actually talks about what the 100-year plan is for the jihadist movement. So let's check that out real quick. And then after that, we're going to have a segment about the taxation part. So stick around and we'll talk about it.
I knew we were going to talk about this, so I'm prepared. Here is the Muslim Brotherhood plan for North America. It's in Arabic and it's in English. This is the version presented by our government. You see the number, the government number on the bottom. It was presented as evidence in the largest terrorism financing trial in the history of our country, where our government sued the Holy Land Foundation in Dallas, Texas in 2007-2008 and handed down 108 guilty verdicts to Muslim American and Muslim American organizations raising money in the United States to the tune of over $12 million, raised in $150 and $160 segments, which is the price of a suicide belt for a suicide bomber. So here is the plan. It's in Arabic and it's in English. And I'm going to share it. So this is fact. We're not talking opinion. So it starts with that. Here it is in the English version. So we start on this page with the English version. On this page is when they start talking about the Muslim Brotherhood plan for North America. And it says, and I'm going to read you a paragraph. Here it is highlighted in yellow. Understanding the role of the Muslim brother in North America. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ikhwan, which is the Arabic word for brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging, and they put that under parentheses, its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers, so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. As you can see, they don't mince words. They're not beating around the bush. This is evidence. This is fact. This is not opinion. On the second page, I'm going to read you just a little bit. It says, the success of the movement in America in establishing an Islamic base with power and effectiveness will be the best support and aid to the global movement project. They have a 100-year global plan to infiltrate and dominate and bring down the West. They are now 35 years into their plan. And what are we doing? Nothing. We are burying our head in the sand, pretending the problem did not exist. If you have time, I'd like to read you a couple more items. Please. But if we don't have time, we can continue.
No. We have time. We have plenty. No. We have time.
All right. So, and they talk about how they are building segments to infiltrate our society, all our society. In this plan, they talk about, for example, creating this whole page is lists of all the organizations they want to create. The women's organization, an economic organization, youth organization, social organizations, the security organization, political organization, judicial organization, the media and art organization, the intellectual and cultural organization, scientific, educational, and professional organization, the Islamic American Founding Conference, the Shura Council for the Islamic American Movement. These are the consultants for Obama, by the way. The Executive Office of the Islamic American Movement, Chairman of the Islamic Movement and its official spokesperson, field leaders and organization and Islamic centers. By the way, right now, we have 3,500 mosques and Islamic centers all throughout the United States. But the most important page of this is the last page. On this page, they list 29 front Islamic organizations set up in America with the sole purpose of destroying America from within. And I'm going to start. Number 1 on the list. Here we go. And here's the title. A list of our organizations and the organizations of our friends. Number 1, ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. Islamic Society of North America were advisors to President Obama about Middle East policy. So not only we had the Fox watching the hen house, we had the Fox inside the White House talking policy in the ear of the president. This is exactly why when Obama delivered his speech in Egypt, remember his first famous speech to the Arabic world, to the Islamic world, he went to Egypt and contrary to Mubarak, at that time the president president of Egypt, who was against the Muslim Brotherhood. Obama goes behind and around and on top of the president of Egypt, Mubarak, and brings in the Muslim Brotherhood and gives them the 2 front seats in front of his speech when he was there. Number 2 on the list, the MSA.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can I ask you one question? Forgive me, I wasn't paying close enough attention back then, but I thought Mubarak was an absolute monster. I thought
Mubarak was he was not a monster. He was before the Muslim Brotherhood. Mubarak was the vice president when Sadat, who signed the peace treaty with Israel, he was working with Sadat. He got elected after Sadat was assassinated, and he continued the peace treaty with Israel. The Muslim Brotherhood hated his guts. And when they did their coup in the Arab Spring, remember the Arab Spring? And everybody had high hopes.
Yes.
That's when they got rid of him, threw him out of power, and they took power until Sisi, who's right now the leader, did a military coup where they went in, took over the military, took over the government, and kicked out the Muslim Brotherhood.
Okay, got it. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, number 2 on the list is the Muslim Student Association. The Muslim Student Association has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined. And this is exactly why when after October 7th, and you saw all these people, the students demonstrating on college campuses, where do you think they came from? The Muslim Student Association has been working college campuses for years. Actually, they set it up in 1964 in the United States, the first Muslim Student Association. Right now, they are Goliath. Right now, they gave us Mamdani. Remember, Mamdani was involved with the Muslim Student Association. And I can go down the list. Let's see. We've got the Islamic Medical Association, the Association of Muslim Scientists and Engineers, etc. NATE, the North Islamic American Trust, which owns the deed to the majority of mosques in the United States. Number 22 on the list is IAP, Islamic Association for Palestine, which later became CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, because they wanted a name that doesn't show that they are supporters of Hamas, etc. This is fact. This is not Brigitte Gabriel's opinion. This is not Jillian's opinion. This is not Islamophobes making things up. Now, the radicals can say anything they want. By the way, this plan is available right now. We have a promotion on our website, actforamerica.org. Go to our website, my organization. We are the largest grassroots movement in America, standing up to fight to preserve our culture, our security, and our values. By the way, when we talk about these issues and people call us Islamophobes, I don't give a fly who thinks I'm an Islamophobe. Our job right now is protect our country from an enemy determined to destroy us. And who calls us Islamophobes? CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the SPLC, who works with CARE, the ACLU, which basically became the legal arm of CARE. So the leftists and the Islamists right now are coming together, working together. The left is being used as the useful idiots at the hand of Islamists with an agenda. All these organizations in the United States, all 22 of them, working against us.
For those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
If you want to help out and shovel, you do need to bring 2 forms of ID, fill out the paperwork, and your social security card. But to vote in an election, you don't need any of that because that's racist.
I love my brother. No, you really don't understand. I really, really love my brother.
The year 1913 is the undisputed, catastrophic dividing line in American financial history. It is the precise moment when the foundational architecture of the United States Republic was quietly dismantled and replaced by a highly centralized bureaucratic apparatus designed to systematically extract wealth from the productive class. Before 1913, the United States was a fundamentally different economic universe. For the first 137 years of its existence, the American government operated almost entirely without levying a direct tax on the labor or the income of its citizens. The monumental achievements of the 19th century, the funding of the military, the construction of transcontinental infrastructure, the massive expansion of territory, and the administration of a sprawling legal system were entirely financed through consumption taxes, tariffs on imported goods, and excise taxes on specific items like tobacco and alcohol. This original system was not merely a financial preference. It was a deeply philosophical firewall. The Founding Fathers, having just fought a bloody revolutionary war over the tyrannical extraction of wealth by the British Crown, possessed a profound, almost paranoid fear of direct taxation. They encoded this fear directly into the United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 9 explicitly forbade the federal government from levying any direct tax upon the citizenry unless it was strictly apportioned among the states based on population. The logic was mathematically elegant and fiercely protective. If the federal government wanted to raise revenue, it had to do so through voluntary economic activity, meaning you only paid a tax if you chose to buy a specific imported good. Your labor, your savings, and your personal private property were considered sacrosanct, entirely off limits to the probing hands of federal bureaucrats. To breach this constitutional firewall, the proponents of a centralized state required a massive, coordinated psychological operation. They could not simply announce that they intended to take a percentage of the working man's wages, as that would have triggered an immediate political revolt. Instead, the campaign for what would become the 16th Amendment was cloaked in the intoxicating, heavily weaponized rhetoric of class warfare. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were the era of the robber barons, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, and the Morgans. The American public was increasingly resentful of the staggering concentration of wealth held by this microscopic industrial elite. The politicians of the progressive era seized upon this resentment and presented the income tax as a specialized, precision-guided weapon of financial justice. The narrative sold to the American public was that an income tax would never, under any circumstances, target the mechanic, the farmer, or the small business owner. It was branded strictly as an eat-the-rich tax, a necessary tool to level the playing field and force the monopolists to pay their fair share. When Congress debated the imposition of the tax, the political rhetoric was absolute. This would be a temporary, hyper-targeted measure. Members of Congress, who warned that the tax might eventually trickle down to the middle class, were openly mocked and dismissed as paranoid alarmists on the House floor. In 1913, the 16th Amendment was officially ratified, granting Congress the sweeping, terrifying power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states. The initial legislation that activated this power, the Revenue Act of 1913, was brilliantly designed to maintain the illusion of a specialized class tax. The exemption thresholds were set astronomically high for the era. An individual had to earn over $3,000 a year, equivalent to roughly $100,000 today, before they paid a single cent in income tax. Less than 1% of the entire United States population qualified to pay the tax. And even for those ultra-wealthy individuals who did qualify, the base rate was a microscopic 1%, scaling up to a maximum surtax of just 7% on the absolute highest earners in the country. To the average American citizen in 1913, the passage of the 16th Amendment was a non-event. It was a headline in a newspaper about a penalty levied on a Wall Street banker. They did not realize that the camel's nose was now firmly underneath the tent. They did not understand that the fundamental relationship between the citizen and the state had just undergone a violent, irreversible inversion. Before 1913, the philosophical presumption of the American system was that your labor and the fruits of your labor belonged 100% to you, and you voluntarily surrendered a small portion of it through consumption. The ratification of the 16th Amendment legally established the exact opposite premise. The federal government now possessed a prior primary claim on your labor. The state owned the entirety of your income by default, and the tax code was simply the mechanism by which the government benevolently decided how much of your own money you were legally permitted to keep. The citizen was no longer a sovereign individual. They had been mathematically transformed into a fiscal serf, an economic unit whose primary function was to generate revenue for a centralized authority. But the income tax was only one half of the 1913 wealth transfer matrix. The 16th Amendment was ratified in February of that year. Just 10 months later, in December 1913, Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act, establishing a privately owned central banking cartel with the monopolistic power to issue the nation's currency. These two events are not historically coincidental. They are the twin pillars of a single, highly integrated financial architecture. They are functionally inseparable. To understand why an income tax was an absolute prerequisite for a central bank, one must understand the mechanics of fiat debt. When a central bank issues fiat currency, it does not create wealth, it creates debt. Every dollar printed by the Federal Reserve is loaned into existence and carries an interest obligation. If the government wants to borrow massive amounts of money from this new central bank to fund sprawling bureaucratic agencies, foreign interventions, or endless entitlement programs, the central bank requires a guarantee. It requires collateral. The Federal Reserve could not simply print infinite currency for the U.S. Treasury unless the Treasury had a guaranteed, ironclad mechanism to extract wealth from the population to pay the interest on that newly created debt. The 16th Amendment provided that exact collateral. The collateral for the Federal Reserve's endless money printing was not gold, and it was not land. The collateral was the future, unearned labor of the American taxpayer. The income tax acts as the servicing mechanism for the national debt. Without the legal authority to reach directly into the paycheck of every working citizen and extract a percentage of their labor, the federal government could never have secured the astronomical loans required to build the modern, hyper-indebted administrative state. The income tax is the collection agency for the central bank. The deception that the income tax was a temporary measure strictly for the rich evaporated almost immediately, validating every paranoid warning of the anti-tax isolationists. The catalyst, as is always the case in the expansion of state power, was a geopolitical crisis. With the outbreak of World War I, the federal government suddenly required staggering amounts of capital to fund the military-industrial complex. The Revenue Acts of 1916 and 1917 were rammed through Congress, ruthlessly slashing the exemption thresholds and exposing a massive new swath of the middle class to direct taxation. Simultaneously, the rates skyrocketed. The top marginal tax rate, which had been a mere 7% just 4 years prior, was violently ratcheted up to an astonishing 77% to fund the war effort. The crisis proved the ultimate political axiom. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. Once the war ended, the rates were lowered slightly, but the architecture of mass extraction remained permanently in place. The government had tasted the intoxicating power of direct wealth confiscation, and the bureaucratic apparatus had expanded to rely on it. The eat the rich narrative was quietly abandoned, replaced by a system that aggressively targeted the vast productive middle class, because that is where the true mathematical volume of a nation's wealth resides. The 1913 legislation did not punish the monopolists. It effectively pulled up the ladder of capital formation, ensuring that a working-class citizen would find it mathematically nearly impossible to accumulate enough retained earnings to ever challenge the established financial elite. The metamorphosis of the American income tax from a highly targeted microscopic penalty on the elite into a sprawling, inescapable dragnet capturing the entire working population was not an accident of history. It was a deliberate, methodical expansion of state power catalyzed by crisis. While World War I introduced the concept of higher rates, it was the catastrophic economic collapse of the Great Depression and the subsequent total mobilization for World War II that permanently cemented the modern extraction apparatus. During the 1930s, under the administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the tax code was overtly weaponized as a tool of social engineering and wealth redistribution. The Revenue Act of 1932, signed in the dying days of the Hoover administration but embraced by the New Deal, violently yanked the top marginal rate from 25% up to 63%. By 1936, Roosevelt pushed that top rate to 79%, and by the height of the Second World War, the top marginal tax rate in the United States reached an astonishing confiscatory 94%. However, focusing solely on the top marginal rates applied to millionaires obscures the true devastating paradigm shift that occurred in the shadows of the war effort. The government did not merely raise the ceiling, they systematically obliterated the floor. To finance the staggering logistical requirements of a two-front global war, the United States Treasury realized that taxing the rich was mathematically insufficient. There were simply not enough millionaires to fund the production of thousands of B-17 bombers and aircraft carriers. The true volume of national wealth resided in the collective wages of the middle and lower middle classes. In 1939, before the outbreak of the war in Europe, the income tax was still fundamentally a class tax. Only about 4 million Americans, a tiny fraction of the population, earned enough to cross the exemption thresholds and file a return. By 1945, that number had exploded to nearly 43 million. The tax net had been thrown over the entire American workforce. This transformation from a class tax to a mass tax required an unprecedented psychological propaganda campaign. The Treasury Department commissioned Walt Disney to produce animated films, most notably The New Spirit, starring Donald Duck, to convince a reluctant historically anti-tax public that paying a massive portion of their income directly to Washington was the ultimate expression of patriotic duty. The narrative was entirely inverted. Keeping the fruits of your own labor was framed as selfish, while surrendering your wealth to the state was framed as defeating fascism. But propaganda alone could not solve a critical, logistical nightmare facing the federal government. Prior to 1943, Americans paid their income taxes in a single lump sum payment on March 15th for the income they had earned in the previous year. As the government drastically lowered the exemption limits to capture the wages of factory workers, mechanics, and clerks, they encountered a terrifying reality. The average working-class citizen simply did not possess the financial discipline to save 20 or 30% of their wages throughout the year to hand over to the government the following spring. If millions of newly taxed Americans defaulted on their tax bills because they had already spent the money on food, housing, and survival, the entire war financing apparatus would collapse into chaos. The solution to this existential threat was engineered by a man named Beardsley Rumel, who was not a politician, but the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. In 1943, Congress passed the Current Tax Payment Act, widely known as the Rumel Plan. This piece of legislation is arguably the most insidious, psychologically brilliant, and destructive financial mechanism ever implemented against the American worker. The Rumel Plan introduced the concept of withholding at the source. Instead of asking the citizen to write a check to the government at the end of the year, the government mandated that every employer in the United States must automatically deduct the tax from the employee's paycheck before the employee ever saw the money. The employer was legally conscripted to act as an unpaid tax collector for the federal government. This completely revolutionized the psychology of taxation. When a tax is withheld at the source, the citizen never physically possesses the money. Because they never hold it, they do not feel the agonizing sting of losing it. The psychological pain of writing a massive check to the Treasury is entirely bypassed. A worker simply accepts that their gross salary is a fiction, a theoretical number on a piece of paper, and their take-home pay is their actual reality. The Rumel Plan successfully anesthetized the American public to the sheer volume of wealth being extracted from them. Furthermore, withholding birthed the brilliant psychological illusion of the tax refund. By intentionally over-withholding slightly from every paycheck, the government forces the citizen to give them an interest-free loan throughout the year. When the citizen files their return in April and receives a fraction of their own money back, they are psychologically conditioned to view it as a gift, a windfall from a benevolent government, rather than the return of stolen property. This mechanism permanently neutralized the threat of a widespread tax revolt. The working class was mathematically captured, sedated by the illusion of refunds, and systematically drained of their ability to accumulate generational capital. This system of mass extraction works in lethal tandem with the second pillar of the 1913 architecture, the Federal Reserve. The true horror of the American financial system is not merely that you are taxed on your income. It is that you are subjected to a brutal, invisible double taxation mechanism driven by fiat currency debasement. The Federal Reserve has a stated target of perpetual inflation, continually expanding the money supply and deliberately reducing the purchasing power of the dollar. As inflation ravages the economy, the cost of living skyrockets. To simply maintain their basic standard of living, workers must demand higher nominal wages. When a worker receives a cost of living raise, they have not actually increased their purchasing power. They are simply treading water in an inflating currency. However, the federal tax code historically does not care about purchasing power. It operates purely on nominal numbers. This creates a predatory phenomenon known as bracket creep. As inflation forces your nominal salary higher, you are artificially pushed into higher marginal tax brackets. The government taxes a larger percentage of your income, even though your real, inflation-adjusted wealth has not increased by a single cent. Through this mechanism, the government wins twice. First, they extract wealth invisibly through the Federal Reserve's inflation, effectively stealth defaulting on the national debt by paying it back with cheaper, debased dollars. Second, they use that exact same inflation to push the working class into higher tax brackets, forcing them to hand over a larger percentage of their remaining devalued currency. It is a perfectly engineered, self-sustaining doom loop of wealth confiscation. The synergy between the Federal Reserve and the IRS is the engine of the modern American empire. The central bank prints the debt required to fund endless foreign wars, massive bureaucratic agencies, and politically motivated corporate bailouts. The income tax system, supercharged by withholding and bracket creep, guarantees that the interest on that newly printed debt is serviced directly from the sweat and labor of the American middle class. The 1913 architecture fundamentally altered the destiny of the Republic. It replaced a system of voluntary funding and sovereign citizenry with a system of mandatory extraction and financial subservience. The temporary tax on the monopolists became a permanent inescapable yoke on the neck of the working man. By stripping away the ability of the average citizen to retain the majority of their earnings, the system effectively pulled up the ladder of economic mobility. It ensured that the vast majority of the population would live paycheck to paycheck, perpetually reliant on debt to finance their lives. While the state grew into a leviathan of unimaginable proportions, entirely unconstrained by the limits of a gold standard or the consent of a truly untaxed populace. The ultimate triumph of the 1913 architecture is the complete inversion of the American economic class structure. We are told constantly by politicians that the income tax is a progressive system designed to redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor. The mathematical reality, observable in every economic metric of the modern era, is that the combination of a central bank and a fiat income tax system is the most efficient engine for upward wealth redistribution ever conceived by the human mind. The system does not punish the financial elite. It aggressively protects them by constructing an impenetrable barrier to entry for the working class. It is a system that taxes labor at punitive rates while allowing accumulated capital to compound virtually untouched. To understand how the modern billionaire class completely bypasses the extraction grid that traps the average citizen, you must understand a foundational economic principle known as the Cantillon effect. Coined by the 18th century French banker Richard Cantillon, this principle explains that when a central bank creates new money out of thin air, that money does not enter the economy evenly. The entities positioned closest to the money spigot, the massive commercial banks, the defense contractors, the hedge funds, and the politically connected megacorporations, receive the new currency first. They get to spend this new money and acquire real assets before the currency circulating in the broader economy has been diluted. By the time that newly printed money finally trickles down to the mechanic, the teacher, or the factory worker in the form of a slightly higher nominal wage, the prices of housing, food, and energy have already skyrocketed. The middle class absorbs the inflation, while the elite absorb the purchasing power. But the Cantillon effect is only the first half of the wealth transfer. The second half is the tax code itself. The 16th Amendment fundamentally targets income, which is the compensation you receive for exchanging your finite time and physical labor for wages. The ultra-wealthy do not generate their wealth through W-2 wage labor. They generate their wealth through the appreciation of assets, stocks, commercial real estate, privately held corporations, and intellectual property. The tax code treats these two forms of wealth generation entirely differently. The modern billionaire executes a perfectly legal, mathematically flawless maneuver commonly referred to in elite wealth management circles as the buy, borrow, die strategy. When a founder builds a massive technology company and their stock appreciates by tens of billions of dollars, they do not sell the stock to buy a mansion or a mega yacht. Selling the stock would trigger a massive capital gains tax event. Instead, they take their shares to a major Wall Street bank and pledge them as collateral for a massive low-interest portfolio loan. Because debt is not legally classified as income, the borrowed millions are completely 100% tax-free. They live a lifestyle of unimaginable luxury funded entirely by untaxed debt, while their underlying assets continue to compound at a rate far higher than the microscopic interest rate they are paying to the bank. When they eventually pass away, the assets are transferred to their heirs. The cost basis of the stock is stepped up to the current market value. The loans are paid off, and the entire tax obligation simply vanishes into the ether. Meanwhile, the surgeon, the engineer, or the small business owner who earns a high salary through sheer grinding labor is brutally penalized. They are trapped in the highest marginal tax brackets, stripped of 40 to 50% of their wealth before it ever hits their bank account, and completely locked out of the buy, borrow, die loophole. They are locked out because their primary asset is their own physical labor, which a bank will not accept as collateral for a perpetual tax-free loan. The 1913 income tax did not eat the rich. It created a permanent, insurmountable moat around them. It ensures that no matter how hard a citizen works, they can never earn enough post-tax income to challenge the established asset-owning aristocracy. We have now reached the terminal phase of this extraction paradigm. The United States national debt is careening past $36 trillion, thus interest payments alone are consuming over $1 trillion a year, exceeding the entire budget of the Department of Defense. The federal government is facing a mathematical certainty. The debt can never be repaid with the current level of taxation. They have two choices. They can either dramatically increase the extraction of wealth from the populace, or they can order the Federal Reserve to print the difference, effectively defaulting on the debt through hyperinflation. They are actively preparing to do both. The recent unprecedented expansion of the Internal Revenue Service, the hiring of tens of thousands of new agents, and the modernization of their enforcement technology is not designed to audit complex multinational corporate tax structures. It is designed to aggressively squeeze the remaining juice from the vast, unprotected middle class and the small business sector. The introduction of third-party payment reporting networks and the relentless push toward central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, represent the final absolute closure of the extraction grid. A CBDC is not a technological upgrade, it is a programmable control mechanism. It would allow the central bank and the Treasury to track, monitor, and instantly, automatically tax every single transaction in real time, completely eliminating the shadow economy and stripping the citizen of any remaining financial privacy. The system built in 1913 is functioning exactly as it was intended. It is a highly efficient vacuum designed to transfer the productive energy of the nation into the hands of the state and its chosen financial beneficiaries. To survive the collapse of this debt supercycle, you must fundamentally restructure your relationship with money, labor, and the state. You must execute a personal financial secession from the fiat extraction grid. The first defensive mandate is to aggressively transition your wealth generation from labor to capital. You must minimize the amount of your wealth that is exposed to the W-2 income tax dragnet. This requires utilizing legal corporate structures, trusts, and strategic business entities that allow you to control assets and write off expenses before the government calculates your tax liability. The tax code is a rulebook written by the asset-owning class. You must learn to play the game by their rules. You must stop trading your time for depreciating fiat currency and start acquiring the hard, scarce assets that the central banks cannot print and the politicians cannot easily confiscate. This is the exact purpose of physical gold and silver. For thousands of years, precious metals have served as the ultimate uncounterfeitable store of human labor. When you hold a physical gold coin, you're holding retained, untaxed energy that exists entirely outside the banking system. It is a silent, undeniable protest against the Federal Reserve's inflation mandate. In the digital age, this principle is perfected by Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the absolute antithesis of the 1913 architecture. It is a monetary system with a strictly fixed, unalterable supply cap of 21 million coins. It cannot be inflated by a central bank to fund a war. It cannot be debased to bail out a failing corporation. And because it exists on a decentralized, cryptographically secure network, it cannot be seized or frozen by a desperate Treasury Department. It is the first time in human history that the average citizen has access to an apex predator reserve asset that requires no permission from the state to hold or transfer. The story of 1913 is the story of how a free people voluntarily surrendered their economic sovereignty for the illusion of class fairness and the false promise of government security. They traded the robust, untaxed liberty of the 19th century for the bureaucratic, hyper-indebted serfdom of the 21st century. The chains are not made of iron, they are made of fiat currency, withholding taxes and inflation. The system will not reform itself. The politicians will never vote to dismantle the mechanism that grants them infinite power. The only way out of the 1913 trap is through aggressive, unapologetic financial independence. The wealth transfer will continue, but you have the power to decide which side of the ledger you're on.
That's freaking nuts, man. I mean, come on, dude.
I've been saying that this is touching on the Islamic playbook thing. I knew something was up. I'd heard something about that back around 9/11. Yeah, that they had like a 100-year plan. And you know, like we always sit there and think like how crazy it would be to just blow yourself up. You know what I mean? And
right.
These guys don't seem to care.
Well, I'm glad that, you know, somebody's out there, you know, people are pointing this out so that way it's, you know, wake up. You know, it's happening. You know?
We're being told to, you know, shut up, don't say anything. If you do, you're a racist.
Yeah.
That racist word gets tossed down a lot. You know what I mean? It's just, it's over.
Yeah.
Like, stop with that.
I just love my country. And, you know, I don't like when people want to put their ideals that don't need to be in my country.
Yeah, I mean, I get over the time of history how countries have taken over other countries and civilizations have moved here and there and conquered and stuff like that, but not today. Not here, you know, sorry, but I see what's up, and we have, you know, useful idiot politicians that are helping this along, you know, so we have to seriously wake up. Like, there's a lot of this going on, and I mean, or don't, maybe that's what you're for. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not here to decide that for you. I'm just letting people know, like, this is basically what I found out, you know, like, it's happening, whether people want to believe it or not. Like she said, you can't just sweep this under the rug. It's happening.
Right.
And one day we'll find out.
They're trying to, though, but yeah. I mean, at least there's people out there that are kind of digging as much as others. So,
yeah.
I mean,
and the tax thing, you know, it's like I've said it a bunch but taxation is theft. You know what I mean? I've said it a lot. And now I finally have a little bit of proof there that's like they ratified the 16th Amendment so that they can basically just tax the rich is what it looked like. It's what it always looks like.
What it always looks like. It's
and
always
then,
about.
you know, it just showed up as a headline in a newspaper, like the guy said. You know, nobody really paid attention to it because most people didn't make enough to be affected by it.
Right. Well, here's
however,
the other thing.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, I've had conversations with this, and it's like, you know, we're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the rich. And yeah, you know what the rich have? Really, really good lawyers.
Oh, they have loopholes.
That's
when
what
you make a certain amount of money.
And
you have
all
loopholes
them
and
lawyers.
taxes.
That's what I'm.
But if you're just a lowly Joe that gets all your money taken by him every year, then you don't know that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but it's the truth. Like
it is.
These companies that make billions of dollars are, you know,
they
got so many loopholes that,
man.
you know, if you sell certain services or certain goods to certain areas, then you get a tax break for something.
Yep.
You know, if you donate something that was your trash, then hey, you get a tax break for it. So, you know, it's just us that actually pays for it, and it's been that way for over 100 years now. You know,
it just trickles down to us. So, but crazy.
It is. It's like it's one of those things where people actually go to prison for it. They get 10 years in prison, federal prison.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's like
it's insane. You know, I mean,
what did we have this Revolutionary War for?
Right.
What was all that about?
Taxation without reciprocation.
Did that even happen? Was it real? Because it seems like the Queen's been running this country the whole time. Just saying. You know, we've been paying taxes. We got to pay taxes. Got to pay taxes. I thought that's what we stopped doing, and that's why we were like, "Hey, man, we're not paying taxes no more.
We got to pay taxes so people can take our money." That's why we're paying taxes, for people to rip us off.
It's exactly what it is. It's an embezzlement scheme. I work my ass off so that you can take part of my money. Like, that's ridiculous. That's a theft.
Bastard.
I wouldn't let some guy walk up to me and tell me that. Give me part of your money. I know you worked hard for it.
Right. It's going to go to good stuff. Well,
yeah. Somali daycare.
And all these other
delirium centers.
Delirium centers.
Yeah. So anyway, next up, we got a video about reality shifting, and they say they did something in 1943 that was going to have like a 40-year effect, and in 1983, it actually took effect, and supposedly, we're still dealing with the consequences today. So stick around and check this out.
What were we really doing? We were manipulating time. Perhaps a little technical for you, but I'm trying to give you some idea of what we're involved in.
If that sounds impossible, good. Because impossible is usually just the part of the story we're allowed to see. And that's exactly why ideas like this feel impossible to us. Because we're not shown the full picture.
In reality, science and technology is about 50 years ahead of what is reported and taught in the usual school systems and even the best school systems. The private science being that which is restricted to only a few, to certain government agencies, to certain major private corporations that help build some of this hardware in secret.
Over the years, Al Bielek appeared in multiple documentaries, conferences, and long-form interviews, speaking in detail about programs most people have never heard of. And according to him, what started as a simple mind control project didn't stay that way. It started as mind control, but in the process, they discovered something they weren't prepared for. The human mind wasn't just responding to technology, it was interacting with reality itself. And that discovery changed everything. Because once you realize the mind can influence matter, you start asking a much more dangerous question. What is matter really made of? So stay with me, because what they uncovered next changes the scale of this entire story.
So the war was over. We captured a lot of equipment from the Germans, a lot of paperwork, a lot of patents, a lot of trade secrets. 26 railroad car loads full. It's the biggest steal in history. These refugee scientists were set up at Brookhaven to continue work which they had started during or prior to World War II, and that project was known as mind control. In other words, how can you influence the human mind and make the person, because of the influence on his mind, do what you want him to do, or forget what you want him to forget, or perhaps put in false memories. The earliest phases of this were primarily centered around the idea of controlling the person's behavior.
At first, it was framed as research, behavioral science, psychological influence. But what's rarely discussed is how much post-war technology may have originated from those captured programs. It's often said that many breakthroughs in aerospace, radar, and advanced systems can be traced back to the research brought over after World War II. Entire branches of science accelerated almost overnight. And once you understand that, the idea of secret parallel development doesn't feel so far-fetched. Because once you learn how to influence a mind, the next question isn't whether you can, it's how far you're willing to go. And eventually, someone started asking questions.
But sometime in the 60s, mid-late 60s, somebody started reading these reports. And they found that there's a project going on at Brookhaven we don't really like the sound of. This is mind control. What are they doing? So they started to look into it and get some reports back. And the Senate has their own way of gathering intelligence. And they finally became very horrified at the possibilities that they might use this on the people in the Senate or the Congress. So the orders went out to cancel the project and kick these scientists out of Brookhaven, which was done.
On paper, it was over. But when a project reaches that level of secrecy, cancellation doesn't mean destruction. It means transfer. And just a few miles east of Brookhaven, there was a place perfectly suited for that.
So what happened to them? There was a very large military base to the east of Brookhaven National Laboratories. Brookhaven is essentially central to the eastern part of Long Island. And on the extreme eastern tip, there was a military base now abandoned, has been abandoned officially on the government record since 1969. But it was a military base operational from prior to World War I until well after the end of World War II. Officially and originally, it was known as Fort Hero, an Army base, and it had 2 underwater entrance submarine pens for the U.S. Navy's use, which are still there, but they stopped using them in 1983. And this was the base which was still there in 1947. World War II was over.
At this point, the story shifts, because up until now, everything can be explained as Cold War bureaucracy. But this is where the details stop behaving normally. The base was officially abandoned, and yet, something about the numbers didn't add up. Watch this.
And the base was carried on GSA, that's General Services Administration records, as a surplus, unused base. What a joke. It was hardly unused. And one of the other interesting sidelights was who picked up the tab for the power bill, because electric power had to be pumped in there for the research and all of the hardware which came later. And this electric bill was picked up by the New York State Parks Commission. It averaged $55,000 per month. So they consumed a little bit of power.
$55,000 a month for a base that was supposed to be empty. That's the detail that made me pause. Because up until this point, you could still explain everything away as Cold War secrecy. But this feels different. And when I looked deeper into what that power was actually running, that's when the story stopped being about mind control.
They found that with the properly functioning transmitter, coupled to the mind of a human, after they got the basic groundwork solved, a person could think of an object, like a chair or a table, and the transmitter, when on and functioning, would create that object physically in 3 dimensions. Solid. You could pick it up and throw it around and do anything you wanted with it, as long as the transmitter was on. Eventually, the first phases, of course, we turned the transmitter off, the object disappeared. They finally solved that problem so that when they turned the transmitter off, the object stayed. It was a real creation. That was one of the earlier phases of work they went through to learn what they could do with this transmitter.
If that's accurate, then the experiment wasn't about control. It was about creation. They learned the mind could create matter, but the more they pushed the transmitter, the more they realized it wasn't just affecting what exists. It was affecting when things exist. Matter and time weren't separate. And once they saw that, this was no longer a mind control project.
What were we really doing? We were manipulating time. Now, if you've ever had any idea about what time is about, perhaps you haven't been learned much about it. I'll give you a little better idea. 3 physical dimensions we all know. The 4th dimension, time, which we measure with a clock, but a 5th dimension, which is an extension of that. And you can represent time in a rather unique way called the torus of time. This is a mathematical and visual representation. But you have time, if I use this rod to represent the flow of time as we normally measure it forward in the 4th dimension. Say, if there was no flow of time, our 3 physical dimensions would cease to exist. They are totally dependent upon the higher order, namely time, to exist. But you have another phenomena, the 5th dimension. What is it? It's a vector at right angles, a spinner, which rotates around the central vector, and its rotational speed determines the movement forward in time, which we measure with a clock. And I show it as a very good way of showing the example as a torus, a donut, if you will. You have a spiral, which represents the 5th dimensional vector rotation. It moves as a helix forward in time. What's forward? And it's all relative. But as it goes, you generate another vector, which gives you the time which we measure. But it does something else. This shows that you can have an alternate reality. The government has found this. If you go 90 degrees around the edge, you're in another reality, somewhat connected to this one, but invisible.
Up to this point, you could still treat it as a theory, a model of time, a mathematical structure. But this is where it made me curious. Because if he was right, then this wasn't just philosophy. It meant something real had already happened. So I started digging deeper into his other talks, and that's when I found something much more explicit. In another material, he describes a very specific event, a date, a connection. And if what he says there is accurate, this story isn't about a theory of time. It's about a moment when time itself was disturbed.
The Philadelphia experiment, as I previously stated, locked up with the Phoenix Project, and it could only lock up on a very critical date. And that critical date was the 12th of August, 1943, and the 12th of August, 1983. Theoretically, it could have locked up in 1963, but there was no ongoing experiment at that time, such as the Phoenix Project, which was required.
Remember where this started. A post-war mind control program, an attempt to influence perception, then matter, and eventually, time. And if that evolution is real, then the dates he mentions aren't random. August 12th, 1943. August 12th, 1983. 40 years apart. According to him, they were connected, which makes what happened 11 days earlier even more interesting. Because on August 1st, 1983, an order came down.
On the 1st of August of 1983, something very unusual happened. Prior to that time, the operation of the station, the Montauk operation, Project Phoenix, had been on an intermittent basis, several hours a day, maybe 8 hours a day, once every 2 or 3 days, whatever they had going in the way of a project where they wanted to utilize the equipment, they used it, but it was never used on a continuous basis, day after day. On the 1st of August, an order came down through the channels that the station would be turned on and left operational continuously until further notice.
The station had never been left on continuously before. It was always intermittent, but now it was different. Continuous operation changes variables, especially when you're not just transmitting signals, but interacting with consciousness. Because once they moved beyond behavior, beyond matter, they were no longer just running experiments. They were interfering with the structure of time itself. And this is where it becomes technical, but stay with it, because what he explains next is the mechanism behind what happened on August 12th.
The problem is created, and the problem is created is this. Time also has waves. Like a standing wave in electromagnetic theory on an RF transmission line, this means something very extraordinary. If you have standing waves in time, you will find that this time factor starts doing this. The standing waves produce a phenomena of standing waves which go back and forth, and if you start whipping through the 63 point, the crossover point, and create a reverse time wave, you then have, in the reality in which you're dealing, the artificial reality as well as coupled to both ends, and most particularly in the 83 end where the Phoenix Project is, you can generate, and they were in the process of generating a reverse time wave. What happens if you have a forward and reverse time wave hitting the physical Earth at the same time? As I found out very recently, Dr. Van Neumann knew what the problem was and knew what could result. And they had to set up a special team prior to the critical date of 12 August 83 to handle the problem. Had they not found the correct team of scientists, there were 4 involved: Dr. Van Neumann, a second man whom I know but I will not give the name of because he doesn't want to give him, and 2 scientists from the future. Yes, I did say the future, because with Montauk they could go into the future or the past.
Now think about that for a second. A forward time wave and a reverse time wave interacting with the same physical space. If that were true, then reality wouldn't just distort, it would overlap. And if realities can overlap, then history isn't just something that happened, it's something that can be interfered with.
They got a team together, they moved hardware to 1963 to provide damping, because they knew that if this thing was not damped sufficiently, at least to a critical level, to prevent the reverse time wave from hitting, do you have any idea what would have happened? It would have torn the entire tectonic plate structure of the North American continent apart, ripped off the entire top level of the North American continent, probably to the Rocky Mountains. To a depth of 500 to 700 feet, the ocean would have roared in and we would have been back in the Stone Age instantly. That is what they faced, and that is what they had to prevent. And since I'm here talking to you today, they prevented it.
I'm not saying this happened exactly as described, but I can't ignore the pattern. Institutions like CERN operate at the very edge of known physics, exploring particle collisions and fundamental structure. And every so often, someone from inside those worlds make claims that sound far ahead of what the public understands. Most of it remains unverified, but the existence of a gap between research and public awareness isn't new. After World War II, programs like Operation Paperclip brought German scientists into US military research. ARPANET, the foundation of the modern internet, began as a military project in the late 1960s. GPS was developed by the Department of Defense in the 1970s before becoming public decades later. Stealth technology existed years before it was acknowledged. Classified research often precedes public technology by decades. That part isn't controversial. So when someone claims science may be 50 years ahead of what we're shown, it doesn't sound completely irrational. What's harder to evaluate is how far that gap actually extends. According to Bielik, what began as a mind control project evolved into something that even scientists involved didn't fully understand. Something that, in his telling, forced them to intervene before August 12, 1983. Again, I'm not saying that event unfolded the way he described, but I am saying this: the progression, mind, matter, time, is internally consistent. The dates 1943 and 1983 are specific. And history has shown us more than once that advanced research doesn't reach the public in real time. We usually find out much later, sometimes decades later.
That was pretty deep.
Right? I mean,
that's some crazy stuff, man. I told you. Like, there's too many things that lead to, reality shifting, time travel, mind control.
Right. I mean,
okay, you messed with the mind, you've messed with matter, you've messed with time. What's next?
The end of the world.
I mean, are we even alive?
Well,
I mean, are we actually alive, or are we just like having these memories that have been falsely planted into our brains? I mean, obviously they say they have that technology. So
are we the Matrix? We're
the
podcast in the Matrix.
I don't know. But it's a pretty cool program that we're running, I guess. We get to sit here and talk to you guys on camera.
Right? I mean, I
Matrix, dude.
Woo, I can't complain. I mean, there was a couple things that, maybe could have left out, but I'm doing all right, though.
Yeah, this is all right, man.
It's
a good way to look at it.
Right? I mean, I guess they had to, make the Matrix as real as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, at least they gave you a hot wife.
Right. Well, hey, there's, like I said, I said there were some things that they could have left out, but
right.
I'm glad that they added, a lot of my life.
Right.
So it's been good. So thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Strange facts you may have never known. All right, y'all ready for this one? All right. Marshmallows were originally made from a real plant called the marshmallow root. And that's your strange fact.
Wait.
That they do. Yeah.
So you're telling me that marshmallows grow out of the ground?
Apparently they were a root. And, they made, somehow made them into fluffy, sugary campfire deliciousness that you could fling at your friends and catch them on fire.
So where do these grow at? Because I would like to go there and eat me some marshmallows, man. You just dig up the root and you can eat them. They're marshmallows? Or it's a root?
It just says it's a marshmallow root.
It's an ingredient.
Probably an ingredient to help make the marshmallow. Yep. I don't know. Marshmallows came from a marshmallow root. The original marshmallow came from a marshmallow root.
The original one?
The original.
We're not eating the original marshmallows?
Apparently we are not even eating the,
Stay Puft. It'll probably have a black box label warning on it before too long.
Here soon. Well, yeah.
No more Stay Puft.
Yeah. I mean, marshmallow, that's a weird thing, I guess. Maybe.
I don't know. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
So maybe it's actually like a natural.
It could be. You never know, man. It's just, sugar, right?
Guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Fluffed sugar. Good with chocolate and graham crackers. S'more.
Well, hey, everybody. We want to, again, remind everybody that we're on all streaming platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Podcast Index, Podcast Addict, True Fans. If you want to throw some money at us, not asking you to do so. If you decide you want to, that'd be great. I don't know. We're all over the place, so definitely we should be able to be found. And thank you for checking us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.